us start out like that, little people. And life happens. And I don't want to make light of something that's very serious today. But I want to try to keep it a little easy because it can be a little heavy. When my mother remarried, and that's the reason I hate divorce today, and that's why I'm a marriage counselor today. She married someone that I did not know was just the opposite of my nerdy superhero comics. And I love superheroes, but this guy was so the opposite. And I walked in the room, a 7-year-old little girl, and I walked out a sideshow freak. That's the way I saw myself. Because a part of me was awakened that was never supposed to be awakened that early. And a part of me was stolen that was never supposed to be stolen. It was mine to give away when I was ready. And unfortunately, when that happens to us in life, it creates what I call, and what Friedman, the authors of the Recovery Handbook, calls a STIRB. A short-term energy-relieving behavior. And that began my life of STIRBs. So from that point, I grew up really fast. I was 7 years old going on 75, because that's what happened when the adrenaline drops happen when you are traumatized. But a lot of us didn't know and don't know, and I did not know. And so at the age of 11, I decided I had about enough of someone putting their hands on me in a way that I did not want them putting their hands on me anymore. And I couldn't talk about it because we don't talk about things like this. I was told if I ever said anything, I would be killed, and that my mom would be killed as well. So I never said a word. I was 44 years old when I told my mother what happened in that room when I was 7 years old. A lot of us live with secrets, and from those secrets emerge STIRBs. Now I'm going to tell you about my supers. My supers are, I'm going to get you to help me with this. I'm going to say something, I want you to finish it. I want you to say it real loud. Up, and
away.
Oh, you guys, good. With great power comes, who said that? And who coined that phrase? Who's the superhero? Because you're awesome. You know that because you're awesome. I am the knight. Who is that? It's Batman. Who said that? Awesome, awesome. I got one more. Don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. It's the Hulk. Who said the Green Lantern? I can still see you. Even though I can still see you. So these are my supers. And as a nerdy little kid that loved comic books, and I love to dream, and I love to imagine, when we're so young and these things happen to us, sometimes it could be a date rape. Sometimes it could be a boy that you fell in love with, and he was one way when you met him. And then after the intimacy happens, things kind of switched and changed. Mm-hmm. Or it can be like Angel Carter talked about. It could be a parent, someone that you trust, a caregiver. STIRBs come in many different forms, but they are ours. I could not blame my stepfather once I became at the age of accountability and once I knew what I'm about to tell you. So now what I'm about to tell you holds you accountable. Because with great power comes, and knowledge is power. Knowledge is so powerful that in Hosea 4:6, the Bible says people perish from the lack of knowledge. And that's what happened to me. Because that STIRB that I got from the age of 7 made me so angry inside. Because when we can't express ourselves, when I can't say, you hurt me, and you had no business, when you can't say things like that because you're afraid and you're scared and you're young, it turns inward and it becomes anger. Yep. And the longer it sits there, it festers, and then it becomes rage. And then the longer that sits there, it festers, and then it becomes self-destruction. And then it manifests as cutting. It manifests as addiction and substance use. Whatever you bury, don't stay buried. It will grow and it begins to manifest. And it will manifest as sexual promiscuity, or anger, or mass shootings, or violent attacks, or fighting. And I could keep going, but I won't belabor the point to tell you this. We all have a story. We all have stirs, and we all have supers. You have a story. Telling my story set me free many years ago when I wrote my book, Lessons from the Thorns. I didn't know that because I thought I was going to die with my secrets, and I wanted to die with my secrets. But I met many wonderful supers. They were real comic book heroes that stepped off of the page of a book and took on flesh, and it looked like my teachers, guidance counselors. It looked like my doctor when, back in 28 years ago, when I was driving to that vitamin shop I was telling you about, and I felt like that lightning was striking inside myself that I told you about, and I got tested for everything. The first test back in those days, because that was many years ago, they thought it was stress. So they told me I needed to rest because I was working 2 jobs, taking care of my kids. My son wanted to play the piano, had to work an extra job because I wanted his dreams to come true. It wasn't stress. I went back to the doctor. They kept me a few more days because I broke out with a disease called Kaposi sarcoma. That's a skin cancer. Very rare. Didn't know what it was. The dermatologist said something is very wrong. I know they did a CBC, which is a complete blood check, but that didn't reveal the underlying problem. In our society today, we see a lot of symptoms, but flailing at the branches of symptoms don't get us to the root of the problem. Hence why some medication only further masks. When I say certain medications, we've got to get to the problem. My problem came with the 3rd diagnosis when I met an amazing man in the city of Plantation. His name is Dr. Alberto Mestrid. Amazing doctor. I was so scarred. I was so deformed. I didn't look like I look right now. I was really, really sick. And when I went into his office, he never turned away from me, not once. As a matter of fact, he took my hand and he said, I want you to tell me about your life. This is how we touch people. Not being traffic lights, just doing our job, but being like the teachers here, the counselors here, like Melvin here, that's doing more than their job. The people that you're seeing here right now at this school, they're not just doing their job. They're being here because you matter. Because you are the future. And this doctor treated me like I mattered. He says, tell me about your life. And I was marked. My skin was so dark from the skin cancer. And I told him about my 7-year-old experience with a monster. I told him about leaving and running away from home, because a lot of us run away when we can't change our circumstances. Many of you probably have run away from home too. I was 11 when I ran away, not knowing there were other monsters out there. And that's when I was picked up and I was trafficked at 11 from Fort Lauderdale to Miami and back. And again, when the police got me out of Edward's home, Edward was the Caucasian man that I was trafficked to, I was put into DCF custody, Department of Children and Families, where I stayed and went foster care to foster care and foster care. And like I told the other class, I just stopped unpacking. Because it's a waste of time to unpack when you know you're just going to move again. And that was developing more stirs on top of more stirs. And that developed so much adrenaline and so much energy that I needed to relieve, and I couldn't relieve it. And that's why we fight. And that's why we curse. And that's why we get angry. That's why we bully. It's not about the other person. It's about us and our stirs and our own unfinished business that we need to deal with and not take it out on the next person. But that's what we do. Every bully, I guarantee you, has a stir that they need to deal with, a short-term energy-relieving behavior. And I talked about Forrest Gump. Most of you know him. I love that guy. I love his love for Jenny. That guy is just awesome. But remember when Jenny left him? What happened when she left them shoes with him? What did he do? Who can tell me? What did Forrest Gump do when she left? He kept what? He just kept running and running and running and running. And that was because of his short-term energy-relieving behavior. It seemed a little bit more long-term for him because he ran until he got a beard. But I'm saying that to you because some of us are still running. But we're running with that emotion and that anger that we cannot express. And whatever we can express, we will shoot without aiming. Because we can't quite hit the target that hurt us. Mm-hmm. So we take it out on the people around us, especially those who are most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. I know about bullies very well. I had to learn to love them. Even the people that poured the milk on my head in middle school. Yes, I remember. Her name was Vanessa. I love her. But I want you to remember, you have a story. You have a stirred. We all do. And you all have a super. And I want you to know that when I walked into Dr. Mestry's office, he became another one of my supers. I call them superheroes. He looked at me, and he was the first one that said, Sandra, you have full-blown AIDS. You have a CD4 of 2. According to the CDC, anything, and I want help with this, anything under 200 is considered full-blown. I was 2. I had no immunity. I had no army, no T cells to fight the opportunistic infections that was attacking my body. But I've been under attack most of my life. So it became something that made me fight. I was in a domestic violence situation for 20 years. It made me fight. I went through a crack cocaine addiction for years that got me arrested, and I was arrested on national TV. I was already in a fight. I had to still deal with the wolves in my head. I called the men wolves that trafficked me when I was 11. I had to deal with that howl that was still in my head. I was still fighting. But I was fighting against me. So I want you to learn something today from all the words that you heard. Stop fighting and learn to do what you've heard them say. Talk. Find someone that you trust. Don't do what I did. Don't hold it inside. And don't take it to the grave. And that's what I wanted to do because I was too ashamed. I was so ashamed to say, this happened to me. Mm-hmm. Because I felt like it was my fault. It wasn't. I felt like I did something wrong. I didn't. Nothing is your fault, especially when it happens to you in childhood. But a lot of us has had things that happened to us in childhood that we cannot talk about. So the manifestations comes. The stirbs comes. What does the stirb mean? Short term energy relieving behaviors. They become addictions. Pornography, cell phones. All these things become addictions, and I can keep going, but I won't belabor the point. Drug use, marijuana, we can keep going. Whatever your short-term energy-relieving behavior is, I want you to turn it into something not destructive, but constructive. So I had to give up the drinking. I had to give up the alcohol. I had to give up looking at myself as if I was dirty and damaged because I was not. That's what my mind said. But the fact is, we are fearfully and wonderfully made. There's no one like you, which makes you awesome. Touch yourself and say, I matter. Let me hear you say that.
I matter.
Say it. I matter.
I matter.
You matter. And like Angel Carter was talking about her daughter, she mattered. Like this, my beautiful sister here, Creole, bon je benu mama, bon je benu je t'aime. She mattered. And you have to know that you matter, because if you don't know that you matter, you become a free-for-all. Who can tell me what that is? Huh? I'm a free-for-all. Tell me I'm cute. Tell me I'm beautiful. Like my pictures enough. Take me. Whatever. You are not a free-for-all. You matter. Your life matters. You are very valuable. And I want you to identify, finally, your supers. Your superheroes. The people that come into your life that tell you, I'm here for you. Come talk to me. You're not alone. We're all going through something. I know you are. So turn your stirs into something powerful. So I got clean and sober. I went back to school after dropping out of school in the 6th grade. Today, I'm 6 months away from graduating as a doctorate of psychology.
Yeah.
I have been in my doctorate of psychology for the last 3.5 years. I'll be the first in my family with a degree after dropping out of school, going from foster care, not wanting to go to school anymore, because misfits don't learn very well in school. But I fought for my education, because we have to learn. The more you read, the more you lead. If you can't read, you can't lead. Read. Be the best student that you can be. And I believe that you already are, because you're here listening to what you're hearing today. You're here. You could have been anywhere else. Read every day. Become a student of you and understand your stirs, so you no longer have to take all that energy out on someone else. You can turn it into what Forrest Gump did. He ran. I kickbox. I exercise, because I needed to do something with that energy. And now it's constructive. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for listening. And we are open for any questions at all. And before we start, I have something I want to give away. And I'm going to